Hey everybody, I'm Rob Artigo. I'm a screenwriter and I've written many screenplays. And today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the first 5 minutes of a screenplay. I've been to many writers' groups and talked with experienced, very experienced writers, and I've also talked to some not so experienced writers. I find that writers who are on their first or second screenplay struggle with not just an overall story, but when you start reading the screenplay, it's too wordy, it doesn't explain what the main character's situation is quick enough, and it really doesn't start in the moment. What I'm going to talk about here briefly is how to get the right kind of information into the first 5 minutes so that you can grab the attention of the reader, explain what the situation is in your story, so they'll continue to read on to page 20 and beyond. So let's check it out.
What you're looking at here is a final draft document. It's basically the industry standard when properly formatting a screenplay. I have seen some screenplays that look like this, which basically are thoughts in people's minds and things that cannot appear on screen. If it can't be heard or shown on screen, it can't appear in your screenplay. That is, in fact, the first page of a book called The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. If it's not exciting to you, then I can't help it. A little remarkable that though disinclined to talk over much of myself and my affairs at the fireside, this goes on and on and on and on. In fact, this is essentially an entire chapter of prologue that doesn't even begin the story of the Scarlet Letter. It just explains where the author got the idea to do it, and not even the real author, a fictional author. So in this screenplay tutorial, we're looking at how to avoid this kind of thing. First of all, it's all prose. It's all prologue. It's all pre-story. It's all backstory. It doesn't matter. It doesn't even need to be there.
Hopefully at this point, you've already done your outlining of your screenplay. If you're going to start writing, make sure that you at least know what you're going to do. I've written a couple of screenplays where I didn't outline much, and the problem is that you end up writing yourself into a corner sometimes. But the more you outline, the easier it's going to be to make sure that you get your story out quickly. Time management's important, so that means spend some extra time outlining your story.
Let's go over there. I always start my screenplays with fade in. Some people have stopped doing that. I always do. We need a scene heading here, and it's an exterior in a Puritan town, and it's day. Some people put morning, afternoon, midnight, or whatever, but really just day or night is all you need to do. In this case, I've saved some action here for this action line to explain that a throng of bearded men are standing out in sad colored garments. I explain what the picture is. I paint the picture in very few words. Who's there? And then there's an interruption with sound. A woman says something. I add the character. Dame of 50. Whatever she says, right? She's saying something to the crowd. What is it? Well, I'll show you. Navigating to my other window here. Here's the concise opening. And you'll see how quickly. I always talk about the first 5 pages. Well, stuff happens in the first 5 pages, but we really only need the first 2 in this particular example to explain the right way to do this. A quick. Look, that's 5 lines. And there's 3 lines here and 2 lines here. It's even separated. 5 lines that paint the picture of what's going on right now. Then a woman says something about Hester Prynne. And we haven't even seen her yet. She's a hussy, and she stood up for judgment, okay? Now these people are looking all around. Woman number 2. Reverend Master Demsdale is also a key figure in this story. So they bring him up. Now, they go on to talk more about Hester. The naughty baggage is a reference to something that'll be shown later. Young woman says something. Then the ugly woman, the meanest among them, says, Hester Prynne ought to die. So we have people talking here in the crowd, setting the mood, the community's attitude towards one woman, Hester Prynne. She ought to die. Now, more action. In 8 lines, we describe the jail door creaking open and the town beadle coming out, a grim and grisly man. He's escorting Hester Prynne out into the light. When we see her for the first time, she's carrying a baby, and she's wearing the Scarlet Letter, an elaborate embroidery and fantastic flourishes of gold thread. It's important to explain it that way because we want to draw lots of attention to that letter. The baby, the letter, and the way the town, this Puritan town, views Hester Prynne is critical to understanding the rest of the story. I talk about 5 pages. I just wrote an adaptation that sets up this screenplay with some wordy input from some of the visitors or the onlookers. But nonetheless, we know exactly what the situation is. It escalates from there. They stand her up for ridicule for several hours. But once we've seen her in that situation and we're drawn into empathy with her, then we know who the main character is, Hester Prynne. We know what her situation is at the beginning of the story, and we laid out exactly what this screenplay is about. The Scarlet Letter, the woman wearing it, and the child.
Thanks again for tuning in to the podcast, and I hope you have a better understanding of the first 5 minutes of a screenplay. Some of you guys out there will be watching this and go, well, that was nothing. I didn't learn anything from that. Well, good for you. It means you've got some knowledge. But there's lots of people, thousands and thousands of people who are starting to understand the language of screenplays. And I hope this helps. Also, you can follow us on plaudits.com.